All right, so nothing like talking about the metaverse after lunch. So we do have some stuff to also show you guys, but good news, intimate crowd. So if you do have questions, obviously, let us know. All right, here, ready for this?
Absolutely.
Okay, so here's Maya. So why the metaverse?
Should I introduce myself first?
Oh, we probably should do that.
Okay. Just since we're like in an intimate set or an intimate crowd, I can take a moment for you to get to know me a little better. So I'm Maya Kosovalic, and I've been with L'Oreal for over 17 years, as mentioned. So across Canada, travel retail, so all of the Americas, from Canada to Argentina, and then lastly now with NYX Professional Makeup, based in LA in our new West Coast HQ. And I guess interestingly, in the last 10 years, I've always taken roles that did not exist before I stepped in. So I really got a chance to kind of have the white paper and build from scratch. And so this latest role is just like that. And it will take us in all sorts of spaces, including virtual ones in the metaverse.
So thank you for the introduction because that was helpful. But I think that one of the things that we saw metaverse be a really big topic last year, and a lot of buzz there was like, what the hell do we do about the metaverse? This is a brand that actually is doing stuff. And I think this is really something interesting to call out. But let's go back a little bit in time with respect to what does the metaverse really mean for L'Oreal? Why are you interested in it? Maybe we'll just start from that, then we can kind of work our way through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in order to anticipate sort of the future, it's important to understand the past. And so if we think about, first of all, the metaverse, why the metaverse, why now? Because a lot of the technology that powers the metaverse has been around for decades. And the metaverse as a term itself is around 30 years old. So it was first coined in Neil Stephenson's novel Snow Crash, where he depicted a dystopian society where people escape through virtual reality. And that was 1992, so a long time ago. Then if you think about 2003, Second Life launched. So I don't know, show of hands here, who is familiar with Second Life? Okay, so just a few people in the audience. So it launched in 2003, and it was essentially a metaverse. It was a virtual social media platform where you could engage in real time as avatars with other people. However, Second Life did not reach mass adoption, and it was actually in 2004 that a little social network known as the Facebook was founded, and that is what reached mass adoption. So very 2D simple experience. So I guess that's what the world was ready for at that time. Then, fast forward 2006, Roblox is founded. So Roblox 2 is not a new kid on the block, but has reached mass adoption in much more recent years. And then in 2011, a new book comes out, Ready Player One, also depicting a dystopian society where people escape through virtual reality. And then between then and 2020, we now have gaming platforms that are launching capabilities of multiplayer engagement in real time. So Fortnite, Minecraft, and of course, Roblox. And they all reach millions of daily and monthly active users in 2020. So what happened in 2020? I mean, anybody?
Perhaps a little thing called COVID, my guess.
Yeah, exactly. COVID happened in 2020. So we all woke up in a dystopian reality where we could not connect in real life with our friends, family, colleagues. And so the only way to escape it was through screens. So COVID was a tipping point because of the cultural context that it created. The second thing is that technology caught up with the promise of the metaverse. So we now have 5G, which allows you to have much more immersive digital experiences on every screen, including the one in your pocket. So COVID coupled with 5G, and then the sort of artist movement. So another thing that happened during COVID was you had a lot of freelance creators that were sitting at home unemployed. And were essentially looking for alternate sources of revenue. And so they started experimenting with a technology called NFTs, non-fungible tokens. And because essentially NFTs allow you to prove the origin of a digital asset. And so they started experimenting with this space, and that created a movement within the art community and also in the art the speculative community, and led to the sort of crazy valuations of NFT collections launching and selling out for millions of dollars. And so it was really COVID the accelerator, and then technology catching up with our dreams of what the metaverse could be that created this perfect storm for some of the tech that's been around for decades to finally come into fruition and deliver on this of this promise of the metaverse. And then, of course, Facebook rebranded itself to Meta, and that signals to the world that the metaverse is here to stay.
The end. So out of all of L'Oreal's brands, you have one in particular, which is NYX Professional Makeup, that is entered into the metaverse, has seen results from it, is engaging with it. Can you talk a little bit about the strategy, why NYX, what was kind of the reason for that, and then any sort of examples or things you want to talk about that?
Yes, absolutely. So at NYX Professional Makeup, our community is our driving force. And so our mission is to provide accessible tools for unstoppable self-expression. And that really means providing tools to creators, to beauty lovers, makeup junkies, self-proclaimed makeup artists to create and self-express. And so if we think about the metaverse, and like the core tenets of the metaverse experience are really around digital identity and self-expression. And so it's this obsession of serving our creator community and moving at the speed of culture that forces us to have a sort of test and learn approach to everything, including technology. And so since the core tenets of the metaverse are about digital identity and self-expression, it's almost as if we owe it to our creator community to continue to do what we do in the real world by democratizing access through education and through simplified user experiences into this space so that they can self-express, whether it's in real life or in virtual spaces. And if you look at, we have data points around consumer behavior. So, for example, in 2023, Gen Z, over 50% of Gen Z is looking to avatars and influencers for inspiration in fashion and beauty. And this generation, the Gen Z generation, over-indexes in a big way in gaming. Like 81% of Gen Z have, in the last 6 months, played a game. So our core consumer is within gaming and is playing in these spaces. And it's a space that promises even more possibility for creative self-expression. And why digital identity and self-expression are the core tenets so an example, if you think about Roblox, you have kids. They just had a birthday. How old are your kids?
I have too many kids. I have a 14-year-old, a 10-year-old, and an 8-year-old.
Okay. And so what were you doing when you were their age in free time after school?
So it was either playing sports or Atari 2600. Now I'm dating myself. So, but that was it, right? Maybe reading a book, but you usually lied about reading the book,
So would it be fair to say, though, that you had a lot of unstructured free play on the street with
yes.
your friends without parental
Sure.
supervision? Okay. So anybody else have kids? Right. So do your kids have any unstructured free time, free play with their friends after school without parental supervision between the ages of 5 and 15? Not so much. So unfortunately, our kids are, in comparison to us, growing up in somewhat of a dystopian society where, this sort of freedom to play and explore the world without parents is somewhat inaccessible in the real world. However, where they can do that is on digital platforms in the safety of their own home. So a lot of kids, and Gen Z in particular, and of course Gen Alpha now as well, are growing up playing and engaging in real time with their friends that they go to school with on a platform like Roblox, where they can go to school, see them in person, and when they come home, they can continue engaging with them as avatars in real time in gameplay. And so if you think about it, like the sneakers that your kids wear to school and how they show up at recess are super important as part of their identity. It's how they show up in the world in front of their friends. But then they're also seeing those same friends in digital spaces. So how they show up in a digital space and the sneakers that their avatar wears is as important as what they wear at recess. So for this generation, the idea of physical identity and digital identity will become one and the same and have equal importance. And so as a brand whose mission it is to deliver tools for unstoppable self-expression, we owe it to the generation to continue doing that both in virtual and in physical spaces because it will matter. It will matter.
So I'd love to see if we can show some examples of what you've done. Maybe perhaps you can also take us through a little bit for the audience with respect to what they're seeing.
Yes, absolutely. So I talked a lot about our creator community and NYX professional makeup being driven by our communities and our tribes. So one of our communities that we support 365 days of the year is the LGBTQI plus community. And so last year, during Pride, it was the first time we could celebrate Pride in person in over 2 years. And it was supposed to be this salubrious moment. At the same time, the LGBTQI plus community was at the center of a lot of cultural tensions, both in our country and globally. And so we felt it really important to create a platform that would truly be easily and safely accessible by all to celebrate Pride at full volume. And so we partnered with people of Crypto Lab and the Sandbox, the largest decentralized metaverse, to create something called the Valley of Belonging. And we dropped a collection of NFTs that were avatars that you could use to play the game. And the NFTs represented 84.6% of the world majority, meaning 36 skin tones, every ethnicity and sexual orientation represented in an NFT collection of avatars, dropped and sold out in the month of June, which is now dubbed the beginning of the crypto winter. So it was a collection that was really well received by the gaming community. And when I've gone to events and seen gamers that are familiar with the project, I mean, they've all been very moved by seeing this collection, because it was the first time that a lot of them were able to see themselves in gaming spaces represented as avatars. So we can have a look at the Valley of Belonging. So as you can see, this is a new approach to essentially deep brand engagement, and it's what I like to call gamified brand engagement, which allows you to spend more time in much more authentic way with your consumer, and for them to spend time with the brand, and also to have an experience that like no other. And self-expression and representation was sort of the cornerstone of that project.
So this is where I do my shameless plug. So Lumen. So Lumen is a eyeball tracking measurement optimization thing. So one of the things we've been getting into is gaming ourselves. One of the things that's very interesting about what you saw there, Metaverse has 8 times the level of attention than a YouTube video. Why? They are locked in. They can't be on their phone. It's a fully immersive environment. So when we talk about Metaverse, when we talk about how where advertisers are going, this is a good example of a brand that says, not only am I going to be in the Metaverse, but I want to capture their attention, their eyeballs, and make an engagement with them. So it's one of the things we see as well with brands saying, not only am I going to do this, but measure it. Let's get to the learnings and actually prove. And it's an immersive experience. That's why this channel is just exploding. So let's talk about Roblox.
Yes. So that's a really great, actually, segue to Roblox and what we were doing there. So you can play the video and without sound, and I can talk over it. But so we were in the Sandbox last year, and then at the end of last year, we launched in Roblox with inside iHeartland. We built the House of NYX Professional Makeup, and then a couple of weeks ago, we launched a new obstacle course as part of that brand experience. And so this obstacle course is called the OB, and you can find it in iHeartland, either at the house or by porting to it. And essentially, the obstacle course will take anywhere between 3 to 7 minutes to complete once you know how to complete it. But in order to know how to complete it, you have to practice and play again and again and again and again. And so that, in terms of time spent in like engagement with your brand, is a much richer and deeper connection that consumers are making with our brand as they're being entertained, they're having fun, and they're spending a lot of time in this immersive brand environment. So it's really, I think, a very rich sort of brand engagement experience, and has a lot of value for brand marketers, and is fun for consumers.
I love this. I mean, it obviously pays to the value proposition of, again, how you actually can. It's almost like you're advertising, but not really advertising is probably the right way to say it, right?
And I mean, I think there's a lot of brands that have entered this space that have done a really great job at exactly that. Like Aloe Moves is one that comes to mind, where they encourage players to go to like meditation havens and practice sort of well-being as part of the game. So I mean, it's certainly opened up new and fun ways to engage with consumers. And as part of this, you can also create your digital twin. So there is you can purchase various cult items that are infused with brand color cues for your avatar, and then once you complete this obstacle course, you're basically racing to be on a top spot on the leaderboard, because if you are in a top spot, you can win a free skin for your hoverboard for all your I Heartland and House of NYX professional makeup travels.
Wow, that's a lot you just said there too. All right, so let's open up for one question I had, which is a lot of brands, and by all means, good for the audience. A lot of brands struggle with what do they do with the metaverse? Like, we know it's a thing. What do we do about it? What advice, what tips would you give to a brand that says, we haven't done it yet, but we're interested in it? Like, any guidelines would be wonderful, I think, to share.
Well, I think first and foremost for any brand that's interested in the space is like be knowledgeable about who your consumer is and are they already engaging in those spaces. And then I would say before you go out and build your own world, figure out partnership opportunities where you can test the waters, because building a game is obviously very involved, and it's out there. It needs to be updated because people won't play the same game over and over again unless there is some sort of newness to it. So either it's a role play or you keep launching new levels, which is difficult to sustain if you're a marketer. So I would say dip your toe in first before diving in and building out your own land, and see if it resonates with your consumers. And you can do brand lift studies to see what the lift in brand awareness is. And also, you have the same sort of KPIs that you would for a website to understand how many people are coming and playing, and how much time they're spending. So know your consumer, know if they're there, and then find the right partner to dip your toes in so that you can build an immersive and engaging experience that consumers are going to want to come back to again and again. So
this is you didn't even know about this question, but let's have fun with this one. So because innovation's in your title, what do you think the metaverse looks like in 3 years or maybe 10 years? What does L'Oreal think kind of the future holds with respect to where this kind of gains traction or not? I mean, where do you really think this all goes in 3 to 10 years?
So I don't have a crystal ball, but
Noted.
I can give it a try. So I think, first of all, and this is my opinion only, and if I think about, again, understanding the past to be able to make, not predictions, but have some intuition about the future. If we think about the revolution of e-commerce, originally we were talking about what are we doing online? What are we doing offline? And then the big revolution was like, oh, wait, there is no line. It's just, consumers want to shop wherever they are, and we need to deliver a consistent consumer experience no matter the platform. And I think that if I think about the core tenets of the metaverse being around digital identity and self-expression, that similarly to the online-offline aha moment, we will get to a point where it's not going to be about your digital identity or your physical identity. It's going to be just identity. Because today, when you talk even me or anyone that's in the space that is past a certain age, like I didn't grow up as a metaverse native. I didn't even grow up as a digital native, but I've adopted those platforms. And so when you come to me and are like, well, would I spend thousands of dollars on a digital Birkin bag? Like, no, I still want the real thing. But But I remember listening to, I think it was Keanu Reeves actually giving an interview about doing the Matrix and trying to explain the Matrix to his friend's daughter. And the premise of the movie about this guy who's trying to figure out, what's real and what's essentially a virtual world. And her comment was, well, why does it matter what's real? Because ultimately, if you're spending half your time socializing in virtual spaces, then it's not about digital identity or physical identity. It's just about identity. So if we think about that, I think it's the future of social media, and there'll be a lot of different ways that it'll permeate our lives. I mean, gaming is one, and it's the best use case today. But I think the future of work will change as well, and lots of other spaces. But it will always coexist with the real world.
Excellent point. I think that if anybody does have children like myself, this is their social media. There's no doubt about this. And I think this where it just will continue to proliferate, no question, in the future. So let's open up. We have a couple minutes left. Are there any questions from the audience that you'd like to ask Maya?
Hi, I'm Howard with Rise. I know you talked about brand lift studies, and perhaps other people are thinking about this as well, but what are some of the other ways you're measuring the impact of the investments? And is there any sort of, how do you get alignment with folks internally to make these investments? Or is that not a challenge because you've identified this is where your customers are, if that makes sense?
Okay, so that's, I think, 2 or 3 questions in one. So let me start with how do we measure success? I mean, to be honest, it's similar to other media. So you can measure success in similar ways. We talked about brand lift, time spent, number of active users, and then you can benchmark that across your other investments and see if this is delivering better on those KPIs or not. I mean, ultimately, when you're talking about brand engagement and this type of play, it's really about awareness. And so the same KPIs that you would use for awareness in other media are the same KPIs you can use to evaluate this and then cross-reference what's more effective for your cohort. Then your other question was about funding.
Just getting alignment, and was this something that was a struggle, or did everyone sort of say, yes, we need to be here because this is where our customers are, in terms of getting buy-in to make these types of additional investments?
So I think that understanding where your customers are and who you over-index with from a demographic standpoint and where they're over-indexing in terms of spending their time is key. And so once you realize that, then it becomes easier to unlock funding for test and learn. But, we didn't, again, if we think about the core tenet of digital identity and self-expression, as a brand whose mission it is to deliver tools for self-expression and to creators, the metaverse and NYX Professional Makeup have crossed paths over the years prior to the projects that I shared with you. We've played with augmented reality and creating sort of virtual AR storefronts with snap lenses before we ever did this. And even way back, we did a VR project with Samsung that predates even me joining the brand. So the brand has sort of flirted with this technology early on, and I think been able to identify that, especially knowing the Gen Z over-indexes in gaming in a big way, that this is going to be the future of social media. And there's playing games, but there's also cosplay. So people that play games and wear makeup as they play games. So, I mean, both of those cohorts are important for our brand.
All right. So I think that does it. But thank you so much, Maya. This was great. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.